So when we log in and go to the reconciliation module, and now we're going to actually complete a full reconciliation. Again, we land in May, optional to move it up and down. Vendors, statuses are extra filters, and then over here we can go Titan. Now, Titan HQ here, the total amount is just simply a manual keyed in field that we put for the total amount. We've done that within the action columns here within edit. Margin is now computing the sell versus cost out of ConnectWise. And then here's the information that we really want to dive into. Okay, so the total number of lines that have been imported is 12. And then the very first step we're going to solve is this number 2 in brackets means that there's unreconciled lines. So there are 2 line items, which we'll see in a sec, that currently do not have a mapping back into ConnectWise, and we need to fix that first. And then once we do that, we can start working through the 4 lines that are referencing some form of underbilling, and then 2 that are overbilling. So the calculations here are really just unit count discrepancy between vendor and ConnectWise multiplied by unit sell price. And then the passed and hidden lines is a concept where if you choose not to reconcile something for a month, or there's discrepancies and errors, and you're like, I understand this, I don't want it to impact the under and overbilling, then we can pass on it. Or if there's a line, maybe an NFR or an internal SKU that you don't want to reconcile and see each month, then you can hide them indefinitely, which means a little bit more permanent. But we can always find them and see them and track them. Status here, pretty straightforward. There's no workflows off of this at this stage. It's really just a reference that you will use internally. And we find that majority of customers of ours will use reconciled when they're happy that this file has been completely done for the month. And then finally, the import template that we have here has just been dragged in there. All right, so 2 places we can do it from Titan HQ there, or we can do the reconcile. It'll take you to the exact same place. So these 2 line items is really what we want to work through first and foremost, and then we can start figuring out the overs and unders and figure that part of it out. The easiest way, so if you scroll down, this is all the information. Now, in the easiest way to actually find the unreconciled lines is, one, you can just press this toggle and it will just leave you with the 2 lines, like so. My preference with this is actually just to click the blue sort button here once, and it just retains all the other line items and vendor data that you can see here. So we've got a couple of examples that we can work through now. So Excelsior, you can see here, this is our own NFR. There's no unit cost, there's no cost associated with it. So this could be a candidate where we just hide it indefinitely, and we just do that. It's really up to you. It's really, really up to you. So that example there, that's now just hidden behind that other line, okay? Whereas for Able Manufacturing here, we may choose to go, okay, I want to try and find this customer. Now, if this account does not show anything at this stage, but you know within your ConnectWise instance that is the correct company name, okay, it means that there is no active recurring agreement currently in your PSA. So it's going to need to be created first and then synced back through, and then we can select it. So for now, we can go no billing agreement, like this, if we can spell. And then we might pin this note just so we do not forget about it in case somebody doesn't do it this month. It's going to retain that comment for next month as well. So the good thing about that is it's now just visible there, okay? Because we've worked on this one, we may go, I'm going to pass on now. So that's now down to 0. So now we can start working on the overs and unders. That passed on line is just simply being hidden behind here. Simple as that. So passed and hidden is a really clean way that you can just tidy up and allow for just the remaining line items that you really want to see on a month-by-month basis. Now, for all the others, if I come into an edit line, so the way in which we've mapped each and every one of these, if it hasn't automatically been mapped by Cloud Olive, is the vendor information resides in the middle. Very simple. Service name, unit count, unit cost, and then the actual cost. So that's a direct import from the file. We don't always have the unit amount and the unit cost. We can either add them in, or it might just be 0, 0, and you're really just focusing in on making sure the unit counts are perfect. Now we want to match the company name, the agreement, and the addition. So agreement in our terminology is the contract in the system, and then addition is referencing the service. So we just want to map that once, and then that's its home. Okay. So a little bit in the UI here from the drop down from a service perspective, we sort these large to small with cancelled additions in the past listed at the bottom with how many days ago that they were actually cancelled, and even that's in sequential order of date. Okay, so we're going to pick this, we're going to submit this, and we get a little prompt. So now we've got this down to 0, which means we can start working through the discrepancies that we've got, middle to toggle, and it just says hide things that are perfect. The other thing we've got over here is remaining steps. So these are the areas that most MSPs will miss bill on, or of course, if something's unreconciled and not getting billed out at all. So this is letting us know that we've got one line item that's expired, cancelled, or simply inactive. And we put a marker here to show each of them. So in this case, it's in an inactive agreement. And there is a comment here. So it's just saying, hey, client is actually offboarding. So you may already know this. It does say that if it's still in Cloud Olive, it does mean that you're not billing it because it's inactive, but you may still be getting billed for it from the vendor. So you want to take care of that. If you're across this, you know this, we can actually then pass on this. Okay, updated. It's now gone from 1 to 2 in here, and likewise, the unders, overs, as well as this thing here, will disappear here shortly when the screen next moves. So if you notice that that's just gone down to 1 now. Sorting once on CRM units off. We're buying this, we're selling this. Our recommendation would be that you would up ConnectWise by 108 to make it perfect. It's just a recommendation. Okay, you know better than anybody if you need to build that perfectly to the client, or they may be onboarding, offboarding. There can be reasons for discrepancies. So if we were to say for this one, we will update, we will go, do you know what? Yep, we accept this. By clicking this now, it's going vendor unit quantity is 210. Inside the CRM, inside ConnectWise is 102. The proposed, our recommendation from Cloud Olive is to make that 210. You can override this as a number now. I won't worry about it now. And then just simply sync with CRM. So 2 things. You get a little prompt to say, hey, that's been successful. ConnectWise will be updated automatically. Okay. And then we've also set this toggle to go set and done. So it still does state that there is a discrepancy of 108. Okay. And that's because the last sync that we did, although it's every 24 hours for a client, it was actually the last sync was a few days ago now. All right. We will do this in a sec, and it will make it perfect. And that's sort of the final step of this process. Now, for this one, you may go, you know, we're not going to bill the client this one because client is onboarding. It's all good. So again, you spell that. Client is onboarding. We'll pin that to make sure that we know next month that if it's still got a discrepancy, we may want to fix that. Now it's got a comment, and you may just go, we're just going to set that as done. Do you know what? It's just a visual cue and a way that you just won't keep reviewing that and coming back to it. You may also choose to pass on that. And if you notice the underbilling amount in a sec, it actually removes itself down as well. Okay, so again, when we next do any form of browser movement, such as this, that's going to move out of its way. So the exact same thing can happen now where when we're overbilling someone, we're buying 211, we're actually selling 225. This toggle here for pushback will just allow you to make that adjustment. The exact same thing that we did with the other line items. So typically you'd work through all these discrepancies, toggles would all go across, and then either work on another vendor, or from this point on, you can do sync with CRM. And what it's going to do is we'll see with legal help the line item down the bottom there. it's going to say, hey, we're just pulling back the new information that's been added into ConnectWise. And the last sync took, in our case, roughly a minute. So now we'll see a little prompt to go, it's been successfully synced. You'll also receive an email if you force push that. And then from now on, every 24 hours, it's going to automatically do a sync anyway. So we're going to look for legal help here. We still do have discrepancy there. We got 3 and 1. Now that if I do a refresh of the browser or any movement, what you now see is that's gone down from 2 to 1. If I actually do a search for legal, you can see that we're now buying and selling the exact same number, and that's now perfect. So that's really the process. Now we can move this to approved or reconciled if you're done with that. And when we come back out into the main view, ideally as we work through it, all of these will become reconciled and perfect, and you're fully verified now that Cloud Olive has ensured that you're not underbilling or overbilling.